Hi, it's Queensland Storyteller time. I'm Kim Dodsworth, your happy, mortal reader of quality stories. Why happy? Why mortal, you ask? Well, remember Greek mythology and those immortal characters who supposedly lived on Mount Olympus. They kept a close eye on us mere mortals down below on Earth. If we dared to get out of line, for example, be boastful, too big for our boots, or maybe fancied a pretty mortal girl that one of them was keen on, then we were liable to be zapped by a lightning bolt or a falling boulder. Well, today I propose to defy the lot of those testy old Olympian gods. How so, you may ask? I'm going to be as boastful as hell and dare to happily read some of my own poetry. Yep, you heard it, my own poetry. So, do your worst, you preposterous old Greek deities. Here I go. Poem 1 is called Take Me As I Am. I'm reading it to you because it illustrates the way I write poetry, which is with no knowledge whatsoever of the rules of the game. I love rhyming and storytelling. I simply keep at it until it sounds okay, at least to me. This little poem, we were restricted to 2 minutes only, was an entrant in the Australia-wide ABC Poetry Slam of 2010. I didn't win, but it got a good audience reception. To knock out a poem for the Great Aussie Slam, what a joke, I thought. It's money for jam. Will I compose it in rhyme or blank verse? No, that'd be worse. To blank verse, I'm averse. Rhyme's the thing. Blank verse doesn't sing. But hang on a tick. Rhyming's harder. I'm beginning to think that'll cool my ardour. Remember the bush poets of yesteryear. When it came to rhymes, they had nothing to fear. Rhyming to them was as natural as speaking. But already I feel my knees are creaking. Have I bitten off more than I can chew? Have I got it in me to entertain you? Those old bush boys really knew their stuff. Not city gents, they were rough and tough. The likes of Banjo and the great Breaker Harry. They were quick with their lines, never ones to tarry. Their brilliant, inspired versification became the lifeblood of a brand new nation. They'd write the poem straight out of their head, there in the pub or the shearing shed. Probably just one draft, with a couple of changes, in the back of Beyond or out on the ranges. And not only the blokes, but the women could rhyme, and capture in verse the soul of their time, for the sunburned country of Dorothea McKellar showed she could outwrite any fella. And Dame Mary Gilmore, a literary giant, but more than this, an Australian patriot defiant. Oh, Gord, I'm beginning to feel ill. These are bloody big shoes which I'll never fill. I've never written to a stylized parameter. I don't know trochaic from iambic pentameter. I simply pile up the words, I do, and play with them until they sound good, flowing and free. Well, at least to me. I've always thought this was terrific, but I guess that it's not very scientific. So if I'm going to compete on the 2010 Slam, you'll have to take me just as I am. Poem 2. A few years back, a fisherman on the Gold Coast of Queensland was fined for feeding the pelicans. Now, this prohibition is understandable. The big birds can become dependent and also a darn nuisance. The incident was covered extensively by the media, and there were many who sympathised with the fisherman because of the way he was caught. He was dobbed in, a crime in Australia almost akin to murder. My poem, Vengeance from Above, was written at white heat. I don't like dobbers either, and accepted by the famous Ray Martin show on telly. Fisherman John and Pelican Peter love catching fish. Life couldn't be sweeter. But whether you fish for trout or for salmon, sometimes it's feast and sometimes it's famine. One day last week Pete's luck went astray, and he turned to his mate very sadly to say, "Come on, John, will you slip me a whiting? I've had a bad day. The buggers aren't biting." "Old mate," replied John, "I've had a few tries, but the fish I've hooked are all undersize. If I were to feed you, I know for a fact I'd be committing a breach of the Fisheries Act." "Stuff that, mate," said Peter a-cursin', "and bugger your act. I'm a bird, not a person. Out of my way, he said, grabbing John's catch, and swallowed it whole down his beaky hatch. A dobber passed by while Pete was a munchin'. He thought, that bird's having minnows for luncheon, and served by John, who should know better. By crikey, I'll get him, his actions I'll fetter. And so poor John was blamed for bad Pete's crimes. An innocent party, a sign of the times. But Pete's a good mate, so dobber beware, revenge may be droppings out of the air. So when pelicans hover, dobber, you'd best run for cover. Poem 3 is about motherhood. A mother cat struggles to raise her furry brood of 6 in the dank, cold lanes of Melbourne. When I was young, what did I see? Nothing but injustice and misery, living from bins in the lanes of the city, where there ain't no love and there ain't no pity. It was bitter in that litter, I tell you straight. 6 hungry kittens, a tired-out mother, and a mystery dad we'd learned to hate. Mum had been a real top gal, with silky fur and a come-hither purr. Even Toorak Toms of high degree meowed around this goddess constantly. She could have lived a life for luxury, but a bad lad Tom had caught her eye. A bikies cat, living in the clubhouse behind barred doors, sneaking out nights on his evil paws. A good-looking rogue all the lady cats adored. Just one look from him, and they were floored. My poor little mum was no exception, a willing victim of his deception. With lightning speed he started to befriend her, but having kids was not on his agenda. One thing only was his aim. He had no shame, a quickie on the fence which all could see. He was a yowling, prowling catastrophe. Though when he had his fun, he was on his way back to the clubhouse, the rotten louse. Time passed quickly, like they say. Soon our mum was in the family way. Behind wheelie bins was where she lay, keeping 6 kittens safe in every way. Dodging cars and trucks so we could survive. She hunted 24/7, just keeping us alive. In early summer on one fine day, that bikie cat again passed our way. Motherhood was kind to Mum, and despite a life of rigour, she had kept her figure. So when our so-called dad seemed to be returnin', there was for Mum a kind of yearnin'. She knew it was wrong and doomed to fail, but you had to admit he looked a top moggy male. She decided then and there, in one brief pause, to let the bugger sweep her off her paws. When he saw that he'd won without even tryin', he sauntered up, tail high, while she was a-cryin'. Weep no more, my lovely puss, I'm taking you away to a place where you can play all day. You'll be living at my harem, you're going to be my bikie queen. With soft silky cushions and plenty of cream, your life will be one long lovely dream. She sighed at his offer of luxury and said, how great for the kids this'll be. But he stiffened at this, saying, hey, don't you know, this place is strictly, definitely A.O. No kids allowed, just you and me. I'll bag the little buggers and chuck 'em in the sea. An awful silence from my mum did ensue. Then she said, low and slow, do I understand you? You'll take my kids, drown 'em in the bay, just so you can play all day. Having your wicked way, fancy-free, devoid of all responsibility. Yep, that's the way it's gotta be, growled he, looking at her uncertainly. For Mum's fur now was standing on end, sharp teeth ready, claws unsheathed. Hissed she, you lousy bastard, I'll not be bereaved. Mum's attack didn't last long, for the rotten Tom was quickly gone. But before he went, our Mum clawed him good, slashing away at his proud manhood. and for 6 months on, in his den of corruption, sitting down was not an option. Every cushion he could find was used to soothe his sore behind. Now, but for our mum, we'd have drowned at sea, all of the family, my brothers, sisters, and me. And though our mum's gone, her spirit lives on, a real lady cat, none politer, and when it counted, a fierce crime fighter. And that was a few samples of my homegrown poetry. I hope I didn't bore the socks off you. I'll be here again on 4RPH, this time next week, when I'll have the customary short story for you. Let me finish today in praise of poetry. I call it Ecstasy in Excelsis. When you're as low as you can go and things have lost their flavour, don't think that life, your precious life, has nothing left to savour. Just take a topic, any topic, one you can really own, and push and prod and wrestle the words until you've got a poem. You'll find it won't come easily, but the result can be ecstasy, and you'll agree that when all is done, there's just no better therapy.